Welcome, everybody. And now, CEO, Chairman of the Board of Ross Video, Mr. David Ross.
Hello. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our second Ross Video annual NAB keynote address. This is going to be even better than last year. For example, compared to last year, you have, we've measured it, an additional 3 millimeters between your chairs. Compared to last year, we have 6 more inches of legroom between your chair and the one in front of you, not including this group here with the exit row. We have 200 more chairs in this room. That's significant, and standing room only. And for our esteemed press, Deborah, Tom, you have near infinite legroom right up front. So, let's get started. Here's our agenda. It's not complicated. We're going to give a bit of a Ross update. We're going to hear from 2 very special guests producing the world's most watched events, and we'll have some other fun stuff. So we need to start with a graph. We always have to have the graph. Did we grow last year? Did the graph finally go down? We've been growing now for 23 straight years since 1991. Average growth 17%. Oh, we're still growing, which is really good. Nobody wants to break the streak. In fact, this year, the gold bar, so far, Q1 over Q1, we're up 30% over last year. So we're off this year to a very, very good start. So thank you very much to all of our customers. Now, there's got to be a reason for that. There's got to be a story behind that. What have we been doing? Because we haven't had huge investment from the outside world. This is just Ross growing because we're doing something right. So let's talk about that. Let's explain Ross strategy. Let's talk about how we think. We call ourselves production technology experts, and I think maybe we've got a little bit more than just a tagline here. So let's just look at this. This is the Ross Video brain today. On the left-hand side, normally you think about it as logic. You think about it as reasoning. In a company, we might call that technology. On the right side, you have the emotion and the creative side, and we'll still call that creative on the right. Back in the early days, Ross Video was mostly left brain. Mostly probably because I'm a computer engineer and I couldn't help it. So what did we do? So we mastered technology. We had software and hardware and signal processing, thermal engineering, mechanical design, and yes, safety and emissions. We loved safety and emissions because that's one of the things that, okay, that one's getting really deep and technical, but we really do have people in Ross Video that get excited about safety and emissions. Very, very left brain. What else do we do that's left brain? Manufacturing excellence. So we have automated assembly machines that are putting 30 components on circuit boards every single second, 16 hours a day at Ross Video. We have automated assembly machines that look at the circuit boards and look for errors and things like that. We've got automated assembly, automated test. You just poof, put it together, poof, it's off. 100% tested on everything we ship. And of course, shipping. We ship to over 100 countries a year. So that might be one of the hardest things on the list to get right, believe it or not. And all the drop tests and everything else that we do to make sure that it arrives in one piece. Very left brain. But the right brain, oh, and before I get to the left brain, we put together a video a little while ago and we haven't released it yet. And this is a snippet of it. This is a little bit of a video that gives you some insight into the left brain side of what Ross Video is. So we're going to show you the lab, just briefly, and some of the manufacturing as well. It's an insight that a lot of you have never had because you haven't had a chance to see the factory. So that's me. We got circuit board software design. We got 3D CAD modeling of systems. We do mechanical modeling. That's how we designed Acuity. That was the guy that helped design Acuity. And look, we've got thermal modeling, high-end software design. That's our manufacturing plant. Those are our robots. At least the type that do manufacturing. This is the way it inspects it and takes a look at all the different parts, looking for passes and fails. We do optical and visual inspection as well, all sorts of testing. Big factory, lots of cards. Lots of teamwork, in fact, as well. Lots of switchers. That's Belgium. So that's our manufacturing there. We're machining our robots out of solid blocks of aluminum, which is really cool. That's our shipping bay. Busy, very busy. Shipping to over 100 countries a year. And then abruptly we stop the video. Do you like that? Anyway, gives you a bit of a feel. And do you feel like you know Ross Video at least a little bit better now? There's some of the inside, but that's the left brain stuff. Let's talk about right brain now. This is more recent for Ross Video, and I think this is one of the things that's making a bit of a difference for us. So in the right brain, we've got creative services, and you've got graphics creation. With graphics creation, we're trying to do screen art for our news clients, for our sports clients, and so forth, and we're trying to create a look and a feel. And there's some software behind it as well for all the templating and so forth. But really, these are artists that work in 3 dimensions, and teaching our customers how to do it as well, and to be able to set them up and let them go. Virtual sets. If virtual sets was just a robot and a computer, it'd be easy, right? But really, it's all about finding the way to tell the story the very, very best. Do you need a hard set? Do you need virtual? Do you need augmented? Do you need, what combination of that? How's it going to look? How's it going to feel and move? These are sort of things that we do with our virtual set consulting. Our training. You might think the training's left brain, but we don't read the manual to our customers. One of the things we do is we'll sit down and we'll say, well, what's the show you're trying to do? What are you trying to get on the air? So when our trainers leave, people don't just know our products, they have their show together. And I think that makes a big difference. We teach them how to do the things they need to do so they can go off and continue on their own. Consulting. A lot of our customers are trying to do things for the very first time. Maybe for the first time in the industry. They're trying to push the envelope. And one of the things we've been building up in Ross Video, and we've really built up this year, are technical experts that can say, okay, how are we going to put all these systems together, full of Ross equipment, full of third-party equipment, and make it work, make sure our customers are successful. So that's a little bit more trying to figure out new stuff for our customers for the end result of getting on air and looking great. And of course, mobile production. There's almost nothing more right brain than having to actually do the shows ourselves with our own products. So with Ross, of course, there's Ross cameramen, there's Ross directors, Ross producers, Ross graphics operators, and we create entire productions. That's a little bit more right brain, I think. So when you have the technology in the company, making the creative side possible, and when you have, you get some really great output because you have that feeding into the creative. The creative have things they can do. The creatives, of course, are never happy. Those are the guys that really are on the hot seat. They have to be, pushing the envelope. And they will always ask for more than we have, which pushes back into technology and creates ever greater products. And I think that that's one of the reasons why when you put the whole brain together, you end up with what I think is something that makes Ross Video fairly special in the industry, especially for the breadth of our products and the solutions that we can offer. Or you could say we started in our left brain and finally we're in our right brain. You could look at it anyway. We're in our right mind. So when we take that and we say, well, how do we show this on our trade show booth? Because we do more than just products. You may think you're going to see products. Oh, I want to see the Acuity, I want to see the Carbonite, I want to see expression. But every single one of these stations now on the show floor is showing solutions that each one of these solutions, each one of these stations is packed with all the other Ross products now behind it. Guess how many expressions we have on the booth today, our graphics engine. You'd think, well, I see one here, 3, 4. We have 50. In the rack room, we have 50 expressions running the show behind the scenes. They're feeding to every switcher dedicated. They're feeding into the augmented reality. They're feeding into the expression demos. They're feeding into the inception demos, and so forth. And then we do the same thing for switchers and everything else in infrastructure in the behind the scenes. So what are we showing? Think about all the equipment behind this. Augmented reality and virtual set solutions for our customers. We have graphic production and workflow solutions. We have sports stadium and live event solutions. News editorial solutions, news production workflow solutions. We have legislative production solutions, dashboard custom panel solutions, infrastructure and master control solutions, and mobile production solutions. So I hope you can find something of yourself, if you're a customer, in this list. I hope so. And by the way, talk about the left brain, right brain side of things. Interesting, because there's a real mix of people in this room. How many people here think that they're left brain people? I'm a left brain guy. You got lots of left brain guys? Lots of engineering types? Awesome. How many people here are right brain guys? Interesting. That's a 50-50 split. How many people think that they're in both brains? Ah, you guys are fully functioning. Well done. I aspire to that someday. So anyway, I think you get the point we're trying to do. And how does a company become left, right, and sort of a whole brain as well? Now, at Ross now, we have 17 product categories, products and services. There's just too many things for us to show you. So we just picked out a few of the highlights for this particular presentation, things we're most excited about. And I'm going to hurt the feelings of other product managers who worked all year with their engineers and so forth to create some of the other things. But just a taste. You have to come by our booth, of course, and see what we're really doing. Acuity. What's new in Acuity? Last year was the year we launched Acuity, our new flagship, top-of-the-line production switcher. And we put a lot of work into this. In fact, not only did we make an entirely new rack frame with lots of technology behind it, but we made a switcher that we thought was quite beautiful. We even went to the level of detail where we actually sat down with metallurgists and we worked out the right weight and strength of the stainless steel new fader bars that we designed for Acuity. We're very proud of them. So this year, we've taken this a step further. This year, we plan to announce something new. It's called Acuity Gold. We're launching the world's first solid gold production switcher control panel. It's a work of art. It's not for everyone. It starts at $10 million. It has about, $500 worth of gold in it, but we're Ross. So for 10 million, it's where it starts, but if you have more fader handles than one of the bigger switchers, it can go up to 17. Okay, so consider that. We'll have a list on the booth, a checklist and so on, or a clipboard, and a guy named Nigel Splatling will go around. If you can get your name in, because I think there's going to be a lot of demand for this, we'll ship it to you in appropriate order, okay? So that's pretty exciting. In addition to the new Acuity Gold, we're also shipping version 3 software, which is unlocking a lot of the promise of what's inside the rack frame. So with version 3, we have 8 keys per ME. We only promised 6. We launched with 4. We actually delivered 8 with the soft release, which is kind of one of our secrets. In fact, it's 9, because with 9th keyer is actually a transition keyer for all sorts of DVE transitions and graphical wipes and everything else, which doesn't use the 8. So who's counting? When you have what I think is the most powerful production switcher in the world today, 8 keys is enough. We've also gone to 16 channels of 2D DVE per ME. That means that we can do a 16 box in every ME, all 8, simultaneously, all different. That doesn't count the 3D DVEs that we also have. Is that enough? All right, but wait, there's more. We also have launched something called multi-feed, configurable ME outputs. And it's really quite neat. Now, some of the other guys have this as well, but Ross multi-feed has 2 preview outputs, 4 program outputs, and a pair of different background outputs. So with 8 keys, this thing's like a chameleon in just one ME. You're able to make it look, the number of outputs from one ME is just astounding, and how powerful that can be leads to the fact that now we can have 4 MEs and 4 keys per ME in 4K. So this is the world's first truly big 4-keyer, 4ME, 4K production switcher. That's never been done before. And everybody who bought it last year gets this as a free software upgrade. That's cool. It's kind of what we do at Ross. In fact, we've already done 4K productions. One of the examples is the ATP Tennis Championships, where we did some great 4K production in Europe. So we're proud of that as well. Now, moving on to our first guest, we have the Director of Video Board and Event Production for the Arizona Cardinals Football Club, most recently famous for hosting the Super Bowl, Mr. Mike Connor. You have the stage.
When they asked me to be a presenter, I didn't understand why we had to have a mandatory CAT scan. But I think they were trying to figure out the left brain, right brain thing. But it was good that it was confirmed that I had one. So it's a real privilege to come up here and to talk about what we do at the University of Phoenix Stadium and the Arizona Cardinals. Someone asked me earlier about the off season, and it's just a great opportunity for us to relax and to refresh a little bit. And I'm looking at my team over here that still has bags under their eyes, and so I think they would agree when we say there is no off season now, there's only non-football season. And so if you track the NFL, you know we're heavily into free agency. We're preparing for the draft, and the goal for the Arizona Cardinals, and this will come to a shock for everybody here, so you heard it here first, we're going to really work to be world champions this year and to win the Super Bowl. So all you Cardinal fans out there, let's hear it. That's the goal every year. Our team sets out not to win half our games, not to be the middle of the pack, but to always be the very best. And that's the culture that our owner, Michael Bidwell, has created. And that mandate goes through every part of the organization. That certainly goes for game and event presentation. This is my team here. We call it Team Awesome. And in the production office, we call it the Corner of Excellence, and that's what we strive for all the time. And it takes a great team. The same way we're working to get the best players on the field, we're working to get the best players for our production team. And we take on the task of being the very best game and event presentation team in the world, and part of that is staying current. And to stay current and to come up with new, passionate ideas, and that's our mandate, to make the fan experience passionate. On an NFL game, a patron invests their entire day to come to the stadium and enjoy some tailgating and pregame activities. We do 3 hours of live broadcasting before our live event presentation. We have 3 band stages, on and on. And so we turn the control room after the game in 5 to 15 minutes into a live control room on Fox. And so that takes a lot of elasticity and a lot of power in that. And Ross has been a huge partner in developing what we believe to be the best control room in the world. This is what we did last year. At NAB last year, the team and I were here, and we were hoping to get the most powerful vision switcher that we could possibly get. And Ross shocked us, and they introduced the Acuity. And that was absolutely amazing for us. We weren't sure if we could get it in time, but somehow Ross pulled some magic and we were able to get number 2. I'm a little disappointed, Steve. We were hoping for serial number 1, but the Buffalo Bills beat it to us. And having another NFL team beat us to the first switcher, that doesn't sit well, but we'll be okay because as was mentioned earlier, there is the Acuity Gold. But what they don't tell you, because it takes a secret handshake, is there's actually an Acuity Platinum. And that's what we got, was the platinum. It looks like stainless, but it's really platinum. And so the Bills are going to be disappointed. They'll have to probably upgrade to the platinum next year. But you can see our control room here. We always work to have the very best in the NFL and to put the best game presentation, and we're always using our right brain and our left brain together to come up with some great new innovations and things that'll engage our fan in the deepest way. And of course, that takes a lot of left brain and right brain working together to accomplish that in a technical way. This is our beautiful overhaul. Ross refers to it as my cockpit, and I think that's pretty appropriate. I built basically a row of monitors. When I say I built, I meant my team and Ross and all of our other partners. But it's really great. You can see that we use TSC Game Time for our electronic scripting and scheduling, and so we can make those updates, and everyone on their computer screen gets an immediate update of what the schedule is, which means that we can be very dynamic in our show. It's always changing, depending on injuries, what the score is, what we're trying to do in that game, or any of the other events that we're supporting in soccer, etc. We're able to make instantaneous changes. And the shot box that we have here, we actually took some of the modules from the Acuity. We had them put it in a weighted box for us and then built this system that I can use. And it actually, Jamie was able to get it to tie to our audio board so that I can take elements that by NFL rule can't have any audio, and I can bring that audio out myself. It also means that we can set up all these custom controls where if I need to get the crowd into it, so we're on defense, it's third down, and the team is driving for a score. I know I need to get a lot of crowd noise in there to disrupt their offensive calls. I can say I'm going to cover you up, hit a button, it brings expressions, top channel up so that I can bring my fan prompt in. I'll let that run, get the crowd excited, and then I'll say I'm going to uncover in 3, 2, 1. I hit the button, it's gone, and we're right back into the next thing. Expressions has been such a huge and powerful part of our game presentation. I can't tell you how important that is. And of course, we work with the VIP out of Everts along with the multi-viewer out of Ross. Those work in conjunction to make that great cockpit that I have there. The switcher, we moved from the Center GMD, open to go to Vision, but we jumped right over that and went to Acuity, and I can't tell you how powerful that is. We'll be a long time maxing out the Acuity and finding out what all of the features are, but I don't think we'll ever catch up because you seem to double the power every year that we come. Expressions is absolutely amazing. I believe the biggest development in game and event presentation is in graphics, social media. We're moving now. We started in the Super Bowl and Pro Bowl with next-gen stats, and so there's player tracking and telemetry that's coming back, and I only see the graphical part of the presentation growing by leaps and bounds. The only way we got through this season was by the technical training and support that we got from Ross. Training for our operators was absolutely incredible, and of course the design services. We completely overhauled our graphics package, went in from 2D to 3D graphics, and we continued to grow that in an amazing way, and their trainers and their design services were incredible, and that I can't speak highly enough of how much that helped. Expressions, I understand we're a power user. This dashboard is incredible. I get, and I hate to say that, they probably don't want me to say this, but the engineering staff actually giggles because they start working in Ross Talk. They start finding new ways in which Daktronics, the Vista System Spider, Expressions, Acuity, they all work together, and we're able to set up these amazing shows in which we're going from next-gen stats to all social media, etc. Acuity is platinum. Take a picture of it. It's incredible. It's the only one in the world, by the way. So we're pretty excited about that. That used to be our big board, which was in the South. And at the time, in 2006, it was tied for the largest board in the NFL and became very tiny by the time that we upgraded to this board, Rise Up Red Sea. You can see how amazing that is from a fan perspective. You can actually take a 737 and you could fly it right through the board. Well, please don't, but by dimensions, you could go wingspan to wingspan. You can go tip to tail. You can go landing gear to the top of the tail. It would fit within the dimensions of that board, which are approximately 164 feet wide by 54 feet tall. That's a pretty amazing amount of LEDs. And the resolution is roughly 4K by 2K, so we're able to put up two 1080p images at the same time. Incredible power, but that requires a big engine behind it to be able to power those looks. Again, expressions is incredible. We come up with all kinds of looks. If you saw a video of this, this would be all be animated and in motion. And then, of course, with dynamic updating on all of the values that would be in there. You can see polling, questions. These would be animated with the flags moving, and, of course, all the real-time data coming from the GSIS network from NFL stats. And then again, I can hit a button at a moment's notice, get the crowd up, and it's pretty amazing because we get to do television, we get to do sports, and we get to do live theater. And it's amazing when you put something on the board and have 64,000 people react to it is a pretty amazing experience. Protect the Nest is one where the opposing team, in the instance of the Seahawks last game, the Seahawk comes in, he puts in "Go Seahawks," Big Red comes and kicks it out of the nest, and the fans go crazy and puts up "Protect the Nest," and we have a lot of fun with those things. And again, all kinds of different graphics, which my cockpit, through expressions and the Acuity, allows us to get to those very quickly. We support over 300 events a year. Those are inside and outside the stadium, and some of them are very exciting. Big Red Ribbon Music Festival, we take over the Great Lawn, and this year we'll be supporting a large televised graduation in the stadium at the same time that we're supporting the concert series outside the stadium, and Expressions and Acuity allow us to do that in a large way. And then this little event we call the Super Bowl, which was a lot of fun. And that's why I was in Sochi. I had the opportunity to direct the medal ceremonies for the live presentation, and then we're participating in things like Super Bowl. And as we work with systems all around the world, I can tell you now that the power and the support and the partnership that we have with Ross has been absolutely incredible and essential to our success. And in closing, I'd just like to say, go Ross and go Arizona Cardinals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. Some kind words and some great stories. So speaking of stadiums, at NAB this year, we're launching a new type of product, a type of product that has never existed before. This is called Inception Live. And I like the tagline on this one, game day, meet your best friend. So what's Inception Live do that's never been done before? It is a live event production planning, scripting, and social media system. So it's for sports, for concerts, and other live entertainment venues. It gives real-time updates to scripts and rundowns. Let's stop and think about that for a second. What are they doing today? They're doing today what we used to do before the automated newsroom. They're running around with Excel spreadsheets, with Microsoft Word documents, with paper scripts. And if you want to make a change, good luck, because chaos is going to ensue. You got to tell a lot of people that you're going off script. But television news is all about unplanned changes, going off script, and responding immediately to whatever is happening next. It also gives you streamlined asset management workflows. So that's a way to tie all of the changes and all of the media together to your production. And another interesting thing is it now has instant messaging built into Inception Live. So this is a way that if you have people that are inside the control room, you're building the show before or during, you can send messages to everybody, even if they're not in the control room at that time, so they understand what's changing. This is something that you can't do in stadiums. This is a great tool to take stadiums, I guess you could say, into the 21st century in that one area, because they are in everywhere else. Which ties into our update into Inception News, which is our newsroom system. It's an interesting newsroom system. We're quite proud of the new thinking that's in it. A lot of newsroom systems are rundown based. Ours can do rundowns, but it's story based and idea based. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Why is Inception special as well? Well, one thing is it's really pretty. It's a new web-based user interface, very, very clean, the way the rundown works with configurable columns and everything else. But it also has an assignment desk, which is very, very powerful for managing your staff. Nobody else has something quite like that. It also has a very clean interface for your stories. And you can see also in a very clean way what all the Moss tags are and what all the media is that's associated with that story. And something new for NAB is instant messaging. Let's talk about that. Version 9, instant messaging and alerts. So it supports one-on-one and group conversations. Newsrooms do that. What's the big deal? Well, we didn't do it, now we do. Hey, okay, but there's more. We share documents now and images inside the chat sessions. That's new. Okay, you can do that on your iPhone. You can do that on your Android. You're used to doing that, not in a newsroom system. Newsroom systems don't let you do that. You can, at most, just talk. This ties into the idea that we are idea-based and story-based. We're not just doing a newsroom rundown with Inception. We're worrying about what we're going to do in Facebook and what we're going to do in Twitter and how we're going to reuse and repurpose all those stories. And maybe you want to know where those stories came from and how they evolved. That's now tagged into the story as well. That's new. And that allows you to add context to the stories and all the assignments. It also has offline message support. I think that's new too. What that allows you to do is, if we're all communicating on these stories inside the newsroom, but you're out on the road and you want to plug in, you want to know what's happened, it caches that and then sends it to you on your mobile device. That's really cool as well. That's fairly new, and that's a way Inception version 9 has a lot of things, but a lot of it is all about communication inside the newsroom. Also, we're adding a notification bar, which shows messaging and high priority wire alerts. So it's not just communication inside the newsroom, it's communication with the outside world as well. So you're completely up to date with what's going on. Not bad, considering Inception Social launched 3 years ago. Inception News launched 1.5 years ago. We're up to version 9, and also not just doing this, but now Inception Live for the sports stadium. All these features goes into Inception Live as well, including the social media. Streamline. This is another thing. This is new for NAB. At IBC this past year, we launched the Ross Media Asset Management System called Streamline to do your expression graphics workflow, because there's a lot of graphics to keep track of. And it also has an order management system for large facilities to be able to ask for a graphic and make sure it's only done once and stored and communicated and so forth. That's what we showed at IBC. Now we're showing version 2, which is turning it into a newsmam. So version 2 adds video clip and news workflow in addition to the graphics workflow. It adds MOS newsroom integration, a single sign-on interface to Inception. Well, that kind of makes sense, because we make the newsroom system, we make the MAM system, Streamline. Why not make it completely one system? There's a lot of newsrooms out there that don't have both, especially fully integrated. We also have automatic transfer of assets via FTP to target devices. Basically, when you're running your rundown and it says, oh, we're going to need to make sure we push those graphics and those video clips to that server or to that CG, it does it for you right nicely in the background, fully integrated. And when you're done with it, when you're done with it, you have life cycle management to clean up the assets on the target devices. So it's nice. And that's pretty good considering this didn't exist last NAB. So the team's been busy. Now, speaking of things like graphics, we have somebody who is in charge of, who is a live graphics system operator, designer, and trainer for some relatively well-known productions such as the Grammys, the Oscars, The Voice, and more. So we are honored today to have Hugh Grew take the stage.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ross, for having me. And I was thinking about left brain, right brain, limits and no limits as you've been going through your speech. And I thought about, I've been doing this for about 30 years. And when I started out, the first CG that I was on had 4 fonts and 4 colors, no weighting. And the elephant in the room or in the truck at the time was the Car 140-100, which had a wonderful chassis, and you could pound the heck out of that keyboard. And as I recall, it might have been 8 colors, 8 fonts, and I remember it had sort of a rudimentary logo making device, but you had to make it on, you had to make the top half You had to make the bottom half, then you'd drag the row together and it would lock, and then you'd have your logo. And that was a big deal. And that was basically in every sports truck in America, and that worked really well through the late 80s. And I'd have to say the first game changer in my 30 years was in 1992, when both the NBC and CBS at the Olympics, first Albertville and then in Barcelona, showed off Chiron Infinite. And I remember all my coworkers, we were dazzled by the fact that now in NTSC, 2D space, you could fly stuff around, and there was no more locking so much into this other model. And it was an engine called Transform. And I was so appreciative of the fact that now I could type 65 characters across the screen, and I think I had 26 rows to work with. So I was always working with the limitations of that. And so through the 90s, that was sort of the de facto standard. By late 90s, I had decided to transition to entertainment, so I got rid of most of my sports gigs. And I'd say, most of my 30 years has been in sports in remotes has been sort of a, traveling circus thing of going one-off event to the next, and having to almost reinvent, not so much in sports where you'll be handed a disc and say, this is the look, now populate the fields. So I switched over to entertainment, and all of a sudden I realized that I had to build a complete show in 2 days. And at the time, Pinnacle Deco became that device. I could knock out a show in a couple of days and it looked great in 2D. And that was probably the quickest device out there at the time. It usually would take me about a week to build a Chiron duet show. It just took a bit longer. But my moment of epiphany, or the God of font moment, was at 2011 at the Grammy Awards, when I ran into the expression, happily. And I think it was a bit of serendipity in that Brian Olson of Ross had come out to Los Angeles to talk to Alan Wells. And the Grammys look that year demanded 3D. And Alan said, well, if my guy says okay with it, let's jump on board. And I said, I saw the device, and all of a sudden, once it was explained to me by Brian, I realized that there were no more limits, by raster, because my graphics used to get cut off before, and I would try to trick the machine because those were the limitations. Now I saw the Ross video, this screen, and I realized I could, if I wanted to, I could dive through and go out in this big open universe. And I saw the primitives, the objects, whether they were text objects or logos or whatever, they were just sort of these heavenly bodies that I could manipulate now in Z space. And if it went behind the screen, it was still there, and I could bring it back. And that was an amazing moment for me to have that. And so that was the Grammys, and I got so much wonderful feedback from my contemporaries in the field, but also stepping back, how does a guy jump into a 2D world to 3D in an entirely different platform? And that's why I must applaud Ross for sending their guys out. And I had some of the best, I almost get choked up thinking about it, best guys coming out to help. Hard to get choked up about graphics, but it was a great time. Sorry, guys. Anyway, great reception. We went on to the Oscars, and Expression is now taking over LA. And what I found is going from limits to no limits. That's what the Expression has done for me. And one last analogy, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the deepest swimming pool in the world. It's 130 feet. It's in Italy, it's at a 4-star hotel. So there are 3 tiers. There's the 4-foot platform, there's the 40-foot, and then there's the 130-foot for all the free divers. So my analogy is to the Expression. You can hang out here at 4 feet, maybe get your toes wet. Most of Ross's competitors, they might have made it to 40. I'm asking you to take the plunge and join me at 130 feet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. They're very kind words again. I'm glad we invited you. All right. So speaking of expression, we're still making that better too. So let's take a look. We're launching a new product called Expression Clips. It's a new product. Yeah! It's a production clip server. Yeah, that's great too. And it has 204 inputs, 204 outputs, and it has record. Yay! Sorry, that's an inside joke for some of us. Let's take a look at what it does. It has instant roll and back-to-back transitions. Let's say that again. That's not, a 10-frame pre-roll. It's not a 2-frame. It's an instant roll. That's amazing. That's great for live. It can play multiple clips on the same output. What's that mean? Okay, that's something that's a little different. Well, when you put a clip player inside something that is based as a CG, then you can layer things, all right? So you can have more than one clip. You don't have to put it through an ME of a production switcher or a keyer or things like that. That's starting to get really, really powerful. You can also have frame-locked video, fill, and key outputs. You'd think that the video and key being in sync is a good thing. Maybe it's something required. Take a look out in the market. A lot of them don't. You've got multiple channel outputs, but they're not locked to each other. This is neat too. NAS or SAN attached storage using Studio Network Solutions products. What's that mean? That means it's not just one expression clip player. It can be many expression clip players all hanging off a very, very large storage solution. That's really cool as well. That's a big jump. And of course, it's a clip player that speaks BDCP, AMP, P-Bus, Rosstalk. So it's very, very powerful for live production. And it even has user rights and management because you're dealing with a lot of clips in this thing, or a few. It's scalable, which is really exciting. The other thing about expression clips is it's also an option for the base expression. So that means you now have a CG and a shared storage clip player, multiple channels, infinite layers in one box. Yay! Okay, yeah, okay. It is really cool, trust me. Also, it has something called an optional expression encoder transcode engine because it uses the expression codec internally, but we like to make it easy for you to be able to convert your clips from any format into the box in the background, so we have an option to be able to use a new product as well called the encoder, our transcode engine for expression. That's cool too. Oh, a little thing called 4K. At IBC last year, we showed our prototype of expression 4K running at 30 hertz. And it looked pretty good. This year, we've doubled the power. Well, this 6 months later, we've doubled the power and we have a true quad-link 4K 60 hertz and 50 hertz solution for Studio 4K, Blue Box 4K. So 4K expression graphics is now here. Also, another new product, Expression Maps. So we have high quality map creation tool, newsroom client with MOS plugin, defined templates and looks, dynamic looks, smooth flights, all that cool stuff. And it uses Bing, which is free maps. And free is good for a lot of our customers. So that's another thing for our newsroom customers to be able to have that solution. Now, in addition to all the other things we've talked about, I want to remind you about ROS Virtual Solutions. So remember, ROS Virtual Solutions is a very right brain side of ROS Video. So it's our design services. So we can do complete virtual designs from concept to implementation. And let's talk a little bit about things like blended studios. So blended studios is, well, it's something like this in some cases, from WKBN. We helped them design this and implement it and so forth. Sometimes you want to be able to have a hard set. Sometimes you want a virtual set. Sometimes you want a virtual set inserted into a hard set. Sometimes you want augmented reality in the front. Sometimes you want all the different combinations. ROS goes on site, helps you spec that out, makes it happen, makes it effortless on your side. We did such a good job of that, we attracted some attention, some friendly attention from WSI. So WSI is working with us now, partnering on virtual weather. And for those of you who are not familiar, WSI does more weather across the United States and Canada than anyone else. So now, Ross is providing the expertise and tracking integration, so we're doing all the 3D robotic camera integration and so forth, and we're using their 3D engine to create an immersive weather graphics environment. So that's another way that we're reaching out and working with major customers, and this will impact potentially many, many people in the industry, many customers. I want to thank Greg Lazar and their Chief Revenue Officer, and Michelle Bukoff-Bajdek, the Vice President of Global Marketing. They're here. Thank you very much for your cooperation. And they sent me a video. If you indulge me one more time, because we are Ross Video, we'll play another video showing off a little bit of what WSI does today and what it's going to do next.
The best chance rainfall will be across the bay.
Greg here was reminiscing about Monday.
WSI's cutting-edge media solutions give clients the most advanced graphic visualizations and presenter interactivity. Broadcasters in every corner of the world partner with us to drive viewership and grow their business by creating the world's most powerful and most precise weather content. WSI Max puts all the tools needed to produce compelling, informative stories in every weather situation, for every screen, into a single integrated production system. It's the only weather system with the speed and computing power for a single user to produce content at the frequency required for multi-platform updates. This makes Max an evolving ecosystem, delivering superior broadcasting capabilities combined with innovative presentation tools that make it easier to tell a more engaging, more accurate story across all screens.
This allows you to show in the Max Reality layer.
Now, for the first time, the Max ecosystem is getting a dose of reality. Max Reality. Thanks to the power of WSI visualizations and Ross video technology, Max Reality will grab the attention of variety-hungry morning viewers and keep them longer when local stations visualize weather and traffic in a whole new way. Max Reality's advanced augmented reality application creates dynamic 3D images to help better engage audiences and increase time spent viewing.
We have a high temperature.
Mornings will never be the same. WSI's media solutions put our clients on the cutting edge, powerful and precise weather content told through stunning visualizations.
So there we go. Just one more way. Thank you. One more way where Ross is working with other friendly companies and where Ross virtual solutions, I think, are going to make a bigger impact on the industry. Okay. An NAB would never be complete, at least in Ross Video, with at least one acquisition that we had to announce. We've done it 9 times, so this is our 10th acquisition in 6 years. Although I did promise that it was just a small one, but it's interesting. I think it's an important one because we're talking about our left brain and our right brain, right? And you see what we're doing. We're still doing a lot of products, but we're working very, very hard on the creative side. So we bought a company called Rocket Surgery Design Services. And in Rocket Surgery, Jim Doyle, their mission commander, is now becoming part of Ross Video to head up Ross Video's creative services division. And along with Jim comes a very, very long list of talented designers that we now have the ability to put on the tasks that we're, quite frankly, overwhelmed with our customers because it's been going quite well. So they put together a demo reel just before we acquired them, and it's kind of cool to see a little bit more about the sort of things that Jim and his team are going to be able to show for Ross. So, one more team. Cool. Happy Lieutenant. Yay! Number 10. So honestly, if there's anybody in this room that still thinks that Ross Video is just a switcher company, I'll keep buying other companies and doing new things until I convince you otherwise. Another thing, little update on Ross Mobile Productions. A year ago, we showed for the first time, an open truck on our booth, and now we have 5 trucks on the road. We're going to produce over 400 events this year in 31 states across the United States. And we have some customers that you might have heard of: ESPN, NBC Sports. We did the SEC Network, AEC Network, Sports Illustrated, a whole bunch of things for Time Properties and more. And they're very, very busy. Those 5 trucks are all over the place. And one of them, the latest, Fin 5, is going to be on our booth at NAB. And that's important not just to see what we can offer at Ross for customers for sports production, but also so you can see how an open truck really works, because we take that design, we give it away for free to the industry for anybody who wants to be able to take advantage of the cool technology that we've been developing. And we've signed up since last NAB a long list of contracted and accredited systems integrators worldwide who are building open trucks today, everywhere. So you guys should go take a look. Okay, let's talk about IP. Okay, IP. Anybody is the press? I'll ask the press. Has anybody else been talking about IP in any of their? No idea what I'm talking about. IP. Okay, so Ross, if I don't talk about IP, they're going to say, why didn't I talk about IP? Okay, what I can say about IP is it has a lot of promise. It's great for remote production, and it's getting stronger in that area. It also, right now, has, I think, the ability to hopelessly confuse everyone. And it's changing so fast that nobody even knows what you're talking about when you talk about IP production. For example, when I say, what are you talking about IP? Well, I'm transmitting, IP, Ethernet data and so on over with video. Well, you're talking compressed or uncompressed? I don't know, both. Oh, okay, forward error correction? What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, you're talking compressed, yes. What are you gonna use? JPEG 2000? Ah, good answer. Well, what about Pico? That seems to be coming up really fast. That's not compatible with JPEG 2000, but a lot of people have signed on to Pico. What's Pico? Well, it's incompatible, but don't worry. Now, but of course there's Sony. Sony's coming up with a new chipset that is gonna maybe be in their cameras, but it's not compatible with Pico, and it's not compatible with JPEG 2000, and none of those things are H.264 or MPEG-4 or any of those things. And they're not really streaming standards, so what's IP? So, okay. So Ross Video is looking at this, and we don't want Ross customers to get involved with IP the same way that people jumped into, say, digital video in the days of parallel video, if you remember any of that. Stuff that was out for about 3 years, you spent enormous amounts of money on, and then threw out because it wasn't compatible with anything else. So what's the Ross story? How are we gonna help you if you need to connect into IP and be able to be flexible with this crazy, every month going by, changing story about what IP really is? Fairly straightforward. These are SFPs. They're made by Embryonics. They're actually available to our competitors as well. We're designing with these in mind. Because by the way, it's a little bit more expensive, but what I've seen is the people who are buying IP do not care about money. They just want the solution, they want to make it happen, and they're willing to pay more because it's quite useful for what they're trying to do. But what this does is allows you to get into IP without throwing things in the garbage in a couple of years. So the first kind of solutions that we're going to be demoing the prototypes of on our booth is a J2K decode and a J2K encode. As well, we're going to be showing uncompressed and compressed IP video as well on the show floor. That's useful. And as more standards start to roll out, we're partnering with Embryonics to make sure that those happen as well. So you just plug in a module and away you go. If this goes into an open gear card, Like that, Jeff? So if it goes into an open gear card, see, I can do this without this. Oh, well, it's going to come back anyway. Okay, if it goes into an open gear card, that means that you can use this to do conversion top of rack, before a piece of equipment, whether it's a CG, a server, a production switcher, third-party equipment. You can move it wherever you want and just solve your IP gazintas and your IP gazoutas. And then get on to the life of actually solving problems with your left and right brain and making better productions. So there it is. We got our, we'll have a technology demo of that running on our booth as well. And we have a neat demonstration here as well, showing on the booth. And what it's all about is you've got production facility A over here. And way over here, you got production facility number B over here. And going into a router on both sides and being able to share through an IP network all sorts of different IP. So over here you got H.264 MPEG-4, you've got JPEG 2000 encode and decode going on. Over here you got more JPEG 2000 streaming going back and forth. You got some remote feeds coming in. We'll show that using forward error correction, in fact, with the H.264. And even some web delivery happening as well, coming out of simultaneously out of both studios. In the middle is an off-the-shelf normal IP switch. That's useful. That's really good. The other thing that's really cool about what we're doing here is using SNMP, going back to our system, we're looking at how busy that switch is. And if your switch is not very busy, you can increase the bit rate. You can put more signals through that pipe. If all of a sudden you want to add more signals, you can actually decrease the bit rate and put more through that pipe. Now that's a really cool tie line. If anybody knows about router tie lines, you know, I got 6 tie lines between these 2 routers. That's all you have. This is now a scalable tie line that's intelligent in the way that it runs things. That's kind of what I think people need in an IP solution, particularly for merging 2 studios and remote production, as well as web delivery. So come by and take a look at that. That's a bit of a sneak peek anyway on Ross Video's IP solution. Hope you like it. Now, one last thing. We always like to save the best to last. And you guys stayed. Thank you. Very, very patient of you. All right, so one last thing. We have a new product. Introducing Carbonite Black. When we launched Carbonite just a few years ago, it revolutionized the industry for mid-sized production switchers. And there's this really important space between the existing Carbonite and Acuity that I think the industry has been waiting for. So Carbonite Black is a stunning new addition to the Carbonite family. What's really cool about it is a Carbonite that looks like an Acuity. And it has the new cool Acuity fader handles. So one of the things we say sometimes is the switcher is the control panel. this is a absolutely gorgeous control panel. But there's more to it. It's a 3 full ME switcher, 4 keys per ME, 36 inputs, 50% more inputs than the original carbonate, 22 outputs, double the number of outputs in a carbonate, 8 DVEs in 3G operation, double the number of DVEs that we had before, still has 2 multi-viewers, still works in SD, HD, 3G, and UHD. You can do some UHD as well. And it still has view control, integration with expression in Blackstorm. It's still a carbonate at its core. Amazingly, it's still in 2RU. We packed in an amazing amount of technology. This is an entirely new carbonate rack frame, all new electronics. And it fits right between the existing carbonate and Acuity in every way. Now, please stay for our reception, because we have something really special for you this year. Last year we had something special. This year we have something that might even be specialer. Canadian food. So what on earth is Canadian food? Because I know when I'm eating, I eat Chinese food, I eat pizza, I eat hamburgers. Is there such a thing as Canadian food? I bet you're wondering what Canadian food could possibly be. We have the street experience. We have poutine. Do you know what poutine is? It's not chili fries. It's French fries made just right. We had to specify the number of millimeters in each fry. I kid you not. We had the finest poutine chefs involved, and they're on the other side over here. We have squeaky cheese curds, if you've never had squeaky cheese. And on top, you drizzle hot gravy, which melts it into an amazingly tasty, believe it or not, goopy experience, best washed down by some Moosehead Canadian beer. Now, let me tell you, if you think it's hard to get sushi in the middle of the desert, you try and get poutine in Las Vegas. It's not easy, but we made it happen just for you. And because some of you may be more sophisticated than this, for dessert, we'll be pouring Canadian ice wine. Now, if you know about ice wine, it's very special. You can't make that in places where the grapes don't freeze in the fall. So the grapes, at the peak of their ripeness, only on the right year do they freeze, and then they pull them off the vines at that moment, and they have an extra sweetness to them. So this is a very, very nice, special Canadian treat. So thank you so much for coming. All the food over there, and other food as well, is on the other side. So please socialize with us.